Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Well, there's an effort to change the way that our younger generation is viewed in our community, and it's happening one positive story at a time. The effort is also focused on changing the way youth view themselves. This is the vision of Generation News, and here to tell us more is Executive Director Justin Ortiz. Justin, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start from the beginning. How did Generation News get started?
Well, back in 2007, a friend of mine, his friend actually was murdered that one summer, and his friend ended up being on TV. The news went out and covered everything, and he had the idea. He said, man, why every time something bad happens, young people are in the news, but when something positive happens, they don't get any news coverage? So we're like, let's start a show. So we started working together, started networking with different people who knew how to start a show, the legal aspect of everything, and it just grew to where it is today.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about yourself and why you became involved. You're a city school district graduate?
Yes, I graduated from the School of the Arts. I played the saxophone there. It's completely separate from video, but anyways, yeah, I love doing this type of stuff. I'm definitely into video. I started doing video when I was 12 years old, and I wasn't video, it was doing editing. I take two VCRs, I put them together, connect them to one TV, and then I hit play and record on one, and I'd make a highlight tape out of two VCRs. But nobody ever told me, like, you can make a career out of this. Mm-hmm. So I've always loved doing video stuff, and I have a passion for young people and seeing young people thrive. So that's really why I do Generation News, and I want there to be a positive light shine on young people. Mm-hmm. The more positive things young people are seeing, the more positive things they're going to do. If they keep on seeing negative things every day in the media, every day on TV, music videos, in music, they continue to see these things. It goes into them, and it comes right back out over and over again. So if we can put that positive stuff in front of them, I think we can change the thought process of some of the young people.
Definitely. What are some of the programs that you offer?
Well, with Generation Outreach, Generation News went from the TV show, and we branched off to after-school program called Generation Outreach. And Generation Outreach is basically, we teach young people careers. We want to get young people started at an earlier age, so it's from 6th to 12th grade. We get them going, because like I said, if somebody would have showed me, hey, you can be doing video editing, I would have started doing video editing earlier, and by the time I got out of high school, I would have went right into it. So I want to find out what kids are interested in, and then tell them, like, hey, you can make a career out of this, and here's how you do it. So we offer film production. We were doing photography, graphic design, web design, and right now we're linked up with Imagine You, where we're teaching film production and music production there. Okay. We eventually want to branch out so that we're teaching a lot more careers, cosmetology, culinary arts, mechanics. Kind of similar to what Edison used to be and what a BOCES is now, mainly for city school kids, and to start them off earlier. Mm-hmm. Is what we want to do. And
how do kids get selected to participate in Generation News?
Well, basically it's referral based. So if you have a teacher that sees a young person who has potential, they'll give us a call and say, hey, we want this young person to work with you. Or they hear about the project downtown at the Central Library, and all they have to do is come down to the public library and sign up for the Imagine You project. So it's basically, once they sign up, we register them, and they're good to go. Also, kids who are in college or kids who need community service hours, they're able to work with us, and we're able to give them community service hours. And kids in college, they're actually able to get college credits depending on the amount of time they work with us.
Okay, and we have an example of some of the work that Generation News does, and
yes.
Tell us a little bit about the video first before we start.
The video you're about to see is called Beyond Athletics. And what they do is they train young people in football. They help kids get noticed by colleges. They take them out to different combines, and it's producing a lot of Division I athletes. I think out of the 21 athletes that were given Division I scholarships in New York State, I believe this was last year, 14 of them came out of this program that you're about to see. So okay. This program is on the rise. It's a really great program.
Well, let's take a look at that.
Had a very good time. It was empowering, uplifting, and the kids got to have fun and play sports and learn. We also conducted a parent seminar, which our sponsors were able to sort of show the parents what we do as various organizations in the community to help come together and get kids more acclimated with NCAA academic eligibility and prep school options, JUCO options, different college options.
Well, my son attends camps such as this combine, and what we find very valuable, it allows our son Logan to spend time with other kids that love the sport of football, and they're also able to kind of size up what their weaknesses and strengths are.
The kids got to share in over 22 awards today, and they were very excited, and most of all they got to learn they got tested, and they got to learn how to do their sport. They got to learn how to play their position fundamentally.
This elite combine that we hosted today, it was a really great opportunity for kids to come out and compete. I always enjoy working with kids. It gives me the opportunity to work with kids that are extremely talented, as well as those that aren't as talented, and teach the game.
There's not enough of this type of thing around, and there were a number of great presentations. The purpose of educating the parents about the prep schools is so that they know that they can base their decisions on accurate, reliable information.
It has a very positive impact in their preparation for college. It allows them to rub elbows with those in the professional and college ranks, and they get a lot of good insight and tips from them.
This combine here is just a way of figuring out with these kids so they can find out their weaknesses and things that they need to work on so that they can furthermore their education and get into college. This is really a great opportunity for these guys to get exposure and to show their talents.
The coaches give a great deal of effort and spend a lot of time with each individual kid. This camp, there was a very close ratio in coach to player, which I really enjoyed. Each child got to spend a lot of time with each coach.
The camp today, I came here knowing that I will have a lot of competition, and good competition is what will make me better and make everyone else better. So this camp really helped me with that.
Okay,
Nice.
so that was very well done.
Nice.
Take us through the whole process for this. How does the idea come in, and then what happens afterwards to get to this final product?
Oh man, basically, there's companies that call me, or I'll find a story, or some of the people that I work with, we go online and find different stories, and we reach out to the people and say, we love what you guys are doing, it's very positive to young people. Put a storyboard together, the key points that we want to highlight in their business or whatever they're doing for the young people, and boom, we go out and film. We take some young people with us, and we film. We teach the young people while we're filming, and then when we bring it back to the editor's table, we go back to that storyboard and find out what are those key points. So it takes some time, takes a lot of hard work, but I'm definitely happy to do it.
And it sounds like the kids are really hands-on with it every step of the way.
Definitely. Because that's the best way to learn, and that's how I learn is when I have my hands on something. So I'm gonna teach kids the same exact way.
Do you find that the kids are coming up with their own ideas? They see something and hey, Justin, let's do this.
You definitely have those kids who are creative and they come up with their own ideas. Oh, let's try this angle, or let's try this angle, or let's add this effect while editing. And then you have kids that they'll just follow your orders and do whatever you tell them to do.
Okay. Now, why do you invest in kids? Why are you doing this?
The reason I do this is because I know that I look at my life and the things that have put me back in life. I've learned from those things. So I want to take those things and I want to put them in front of young people and say, hey, you don't have to go through these same things. Here are the ways out. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, whatsoever man thinks is what he is. So as long as these kids continue to see themselves viewed in a certain way, they're going to continue to think that way. And when you think a certain way, you act on what you're thinking about. And that's why the kids, they keep on acting the way they do. So with Generation News, I'm so passionate about it because if we can get them to think positive things are cool, if we make it cool for them to do the right thing, we can literally change the culture of our young people. Right now, the culture is not good. But if we can take young people and say, hey, this is what you should be doing, and it's cool to do this. It's cool to be a part of this program. It's cool to, you know, start your own business at a young age. A lot of kids, they look at, you know, they don't know that they can start their own business until they see another kid who's 17 years old who started their business. So I think it's a very powerful tool for young people because it inspires them. You know, a lot of them grow up in homes where their parents, they maybe just work a basic jobs, but they don't get exposure to anything else that's out there. So in their minds, they think this is what life is all about until they see something on Generation News where, you know, they open their eyes to it. You mean I can own my own business, or I can be a lawyer? You know, I can start right now. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing it, because I wish I had it when I was younger. You know.
Can you think of a specific project where you've kind of witnessed a kid have that self-realization?
Yeah, there was this young girl. This was back when we first started, and she had to be like 13 years old. You know, she came up to us and she told us after watching the TV show, she went out and started her own website at 13 years old. You know, it's something that she would have never thought to do before watching that. You know, so I definitely love that, and I always use that testimony. And then there was another young kid, you know, I was teaching him how to do videos, and it was funny because he said, I don't listen to teachers. I've never listened to teachers, and you're the only teacher that I listen to. And he's like, because this stuff makes sense, this stuff is fun. So I'm like, you know, that felt good to hear that. And I know that there's a lot of other kids that feel the same way.
And yet they're learning at the same time, but they're having fun, so maybe they don't realize it. So a lot of the videos, you've been with RPD, in schools, you've been able to hit a lot of bases. Tell us what the reaction is when you go out in the community. What do people say to you about Generation News?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of people love the idea. You know, because a lot of times people don't think about that they are not seeing a lot of positive things on TV because we've been desensitized as we've grown up that this is the way it is. So when they hear something like Generation News, they think it's refreshing. You know, they think, wow, why hasn't anybody else thought to do that by now? And then, you know, you have some negative people who say, yeah, that'll never work. But definitely the response is that people love it and they want to see more of it. And then those people, sometimes they'll give you a call and say, hey, I got this story over here. I got this story that you should cover. I know a young person who's doing something great. You know, so, you know, that's
one
basically.
Thing leads to another.
Yeah, one thing leads to another.
What do you think some of the most common misconceptions are of our youth?
The thing with our youth is that they're categorized all in one group. And it's kind of the same thing with the RPD. I'll talk about those both at the same time. When a lot of times when people look at young people, they already have a negative perception about them because they've had bad experiences with some young people. And they don't realize that there's a lot more kids who are doing positive things than there are doing negative things. But the thing that's viewed the most is the negative things that they're doing. Just like with the RPD, you know, if something bad happens, everybody's jumping on that. But I've talked to and I filmed a bunch of police officers who are doing great things for the community, but nobody ever hears about it. Same thing with the young people. So, you know, if they continue to see that more often, they won't just look at the badge, and they won't just look at this as being another young person. They can start, you know, they'll think outside the box and think and give the kid a chance, you know. So, yeah. How
did that relationship with RPD come about?
I have a few cops who are friends, or some cops who have mentored me as I grown up. Dwayne Sneed, and I looked at him and I said, "Man, this is a great officer," and I know there's a lot of good officers there. So when I seen that everybody put the negative perception on just all cops in general, and I argue with people about it all the time. That's when I'm like, man, I got to reach out to them and say, hey, let's start highlighting all your positive officers, the things that they're doing, so we can build a better rapport with people. Because if people see Dwayne Sneed on TV, now they can relate to him. They know his story, you know. So when they see him on the street, you know, they feel like he's approachable now. Now, when you see a cop that you don't know, a lot of times it kind of seems like they're unapproachable. You know, so I guess we build that kind of relationship with the community.
Sounds like a pretty rewarding project. What are some of the other big projects, or maybe your favorite project that you've worked on with youth?
One of my favorite projects was the Remember October events. Just this past year, we had 4 events. And they were all community-based events. We had a day where we brought the community out to listen to some positive music. They had food, they had games. The second week in October, we did Public Service Announcement Day. And we gave awards to police officers, we gave awards to paramedics, firefighters, and other public servants. So that was what that event was about. The third event was our Clean Sweep. We got a bunch of people together and we went out, I think we went on Clinton Ave, and we cleaned up the whole street. And then the fourth event was Generation Outreach Makeover. And we got about five kids, and we got them new outfits. They got free haircuts from Sharp Edges Barber School. And they just had a good time. So, but we brought a lot of kids together, and we got a lot of kids thinking about positive things. And we were trying to make it cool to do these things. Make it cool to go out and clean the streets. Make it cool to respect your public servants. And that's really my goal.
That's great. What are some of the challenges that Generation News faces?
I have a big vision for Generation News and Generation Outreach, and I think it could get so big. And I don't know if everybody can see the vision. Sometimes people you work with, they're not able to see that vision that you see. So keeping people motivated to, hey, let's push no matter what happens. Let's push through this because this is the big picture. And just having the actual manpower to cover all the great stories that go on in the Rochester community, because there's so many of them, I can't get to all of them. My team can't get to all of them. So definitely we were looking for more college interns, more high school kids to be a part of it, so that we can reach out and get as many stories as possible. We just want to flood the media with positive news. And
where can people watch these stories at?
Well, we are partnered with CW16 and Channel 13. Our show airs. It'll be airing again every Saturday at 3 p.m. And then on our website at generationnews.org. So they can see all of our videos there as well. Another thing that we're looking to get into is we want to get into positive music. We have some artists who are just making public service announcement music videos. So one on bullying, one on littering, things like that, as well as a magazine. We want positive news everywhere, every form of media.
Okay. How do you go about building trust with the students that you work with, or with the subjects that you're filming? Maybe someone's uncomfortable to be on camera, but they've got a great story to tell.
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of people are nervous once they get in front of the camera, but I try to ask them the right questions that makes them comfortable, and then I'll say, just talk to me. Don't even worry about the camera. Just act like you're talking to me. We're having a regular conversation, and that usually always works. And then just growing up, I've always been able to talk to young people. Like I think they relate to me very well. So I think that's one of the easier parts of just being able to communicate with young people.
And where would we find Generation News? Is there a home base, or are you mostly out on location?
Right now, Generation News is mobile, so we're always on location. We go to people's businesses. We go to all over the city. We do want to get a central location very soon, but for right now, we're out and about on location. Yeah.
And you're a nonprofit organization. Yeah. How do you go about keeping the funds coming in, which is always a challenge for any nonprofit?
Yeah, definitely fundraising is key. That's one of the hardest parts about Generation News, or just having a nonprofit in general. We're in need of grant writers. So we've written some grants, we've gotten some grants that kept us going. We've raised some funds that kept us going, but I would say that's one of the toughest parts about doing what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a link on your website that
yes.
people could find out more information?
If people want more information, they can go to the website generationnews.org, and also if they're interested in donating to Generation News, they just go to the Donate Now page, and they can make a donation there.
Okay, nice and easy.
Yeah.
What are some of the events that you have planned? You mentioned that you had Remember October that was last year. Is that in store again for this year?
Yeah, we definitely are going to be planning for this October to do the same types of events. We want to obviously make it bigger than what it was last year. And also, before we do Remember October, I'm going to be working with Leon's Quality Cuts over on Chila Avenue to do give kids free haircuts at his barber shop. So that's going to be coming up pretty soon. And we have some little events coming up here and there. So we'll see what we do.
Sounds like you have a lot of great connections out in the community. How important are those community relationships, and how do you keep those nurtured?
It's definitely important. And one thing I realized growing up is that a lot of the people you run into or the relationships you build, you don't realize the impact that they have. So I've gone through the city school district. I've had a good relationship with teachers or just adults in general. And then now that I'm doing what I'm doing now, years later, those people that I built up a positive relationship with, a good relationship with, are in positions of power to help me to do what I'm doing. So once I come to them with, hey, this is a Generation News, this positive TV show, they're like, oh man, I gotta help you because, you know, we've built a good reputation with each other and they like what I do. So definitely to young people, you know, building relationships with people and making sure you don't burn any bridges is definitely important, you know, for now and for the future even more. So
one question that I like to ask guests that work with our young people is social media. You work with video and still photography, and you know, we take a picture and we think we can just delete it, or you know, we put something on Facebook. What do you teach your kids about being responsible with social media?
One thing that I've learned within the past years is that if kids want to get jobs nowadays, you know, employers are looking at their Facebook pages. They want to see what they're doing. You know, and I see it now, and I'm saddened by it. But there's a lot of kids who, you know, they'll post fights to Facebook, but they don't realize that that's there forever now. You know, somebody's going to look back and somebody's going to judge them upon what they put on there. You know, so I try to tell all the young people I come in contact with, you know, be responsible. You know, somebody's going to look at this one day and it's going to affect you. You know, so.
What are the criteria for kids that want to participate in the program?
In the after-school program or in Generation News?
In Generation News.
You either have to be in high school or college. Well, you can be older than that. But the requirements is like we want our high school kids to be getting good grades. If you're not getting good grades, then you need to be focusing on that more than you're focusing on what we're doing. And then college students, you know, we want to help them get college credits. So we deal with a lot of you know, seniors who are towards the end of their college career who need those final credits. So there's really no requirements as long as they go according to, you know, our code of conduct and they're not getting themselves in trouble. Because if they're trying to promote a positive image but they're on the side doing a lot of negative things, you know, it's kind of like a conflict of interest right there.
Sure.
You know, so we look out for those things.
Right. And for your high school students, do they need to come in with a level of experience, or do you teach them the very basics right away? Right.
We teach them the very basics right away. As long as they have the drive to want to do it, then anybody can really learn. You know, so we don't want to just take the experienced kids, because there's kids who want to do it and they just don't know where to start or they don't know how to get involved. So we'll take those kids and just start teaching them basics. Maybe you might start out with, you know, holding the boom mic, or, you know, on lighting, and then eventually work your way to the camera and then to editing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your you said you have a vision and it's so big. If you could focus on maybe one thing in the near future, what would that be for Generation News?
Oh man, that is a tough question. One thing that I want to do is I want Generation News to stay local in Rochester. Let me rephrase that. I want to be able to go to different cities with Generation News. But whenever I go to different cities, I want it to be localized. So Buffalo would have their own Generation News. Syracuse will have their own Generation News. Because when Rochester kids see other kids on TV, you know, and they're making it, they'll say, well, they're from California. You know, but if they can see somebody from their own neighborhood who's making it, now they're really inspired because he's from the same situation as you. He's been through the same stuff you've been through, so you are able to make it. That's why I want to keep it local. When we move to Buffalo or when we move to Syracuse, it's got to be local.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We're out of time, but thank you for all the work that you're doing in our community.
Thank you.
To learn more about Generation News, visit generationnews.org. You can also call 957-6730. Thanks for joining us on this edition of CityWise. I'm Tiana Stevens, and we'll see you next week.